we got to start with something we know. This life is something we know. So we start from there. This life. What is this life? We born here. We have encountered different challenges in life. We have our happiness. We have our suffering. If we continue to have happiness, we do not reflect. We do not have a chance to reflect on what life is about. You know, so we're happy. We continue to carry on being happy, and then we forget why we're here. Now, we are very good at seeking happiness. When there is any little discomfort, what we do is turn away from it. Yeah. It's okay. When we have a little bit of discomfort, only discomfort, it doesn't even go near suffering. We start turning away from it and seek happiness. Because that's what we want, seeking happiness, you know. But when something really bad happens, then we ask, why is this happening to us? Then we start investigating, right? So that is very important, you know, to be able to investigate why you're here, or else we'll be living our life blindly, you know, seeking one thing after another. And sometimes we may not come to this kind of suffering till we're much older. And by that time, we discover, yes, this is something which I should do, you know. By that time, it might be a bit too late. Now, if we have come across Buddhism, then we will have come across what the Buddha taught, you know, and says the first noble truth, you know. There is suffering, you know. So we have to think about it, you know. What does the Buddha mean? What does the Buddha mean when he says there is suffering? Well, if we look, when we are born, we are helpless, right? As a baby, we can't tell our mother that we're hungry, or we have wind, or whatever it is, we just cry. And hopefully our mother will know what to do, right? Or we want to go to the toilet. We can't say anything. All we know is that somehow is painful, right? And we let out this cry, you know, to let our mothers know that we are in pain. And when our mother brings us up, she's also having some difficulty, you know. Well, baby is crying, I've got to figure out why he or she is crying, you know. And then, you know, from experience, well, I've got to start feeding the baby every 4 hours, you know. Probably, you know, and we have feed the baby and he or she doesn't stop crying. And then I've got to find out what else is wrong, wind or whatever. Now, when we are born as a human being, there are 4 nutrients that we require. Every human being on earth needs food. We need food. Not just one day, we need food every day throughout our life. No question about it. we have to search for food. But when we're young, we're lucky, there's somebody who looked after us. Somebody who loves us, look after us. But then sometimes we may not be in that fortunate situation, right? We may be born, in a poor family, or born in a family where there's food is difficult to find. So we may or may not be fortunate when we are born. Now, maybe when we become a teenager, then our parents are fed up, of feeding us all the time. Then we got to start looking for food for ourselves, So we have to work, do whatever it is, just to keep the body going. Right? We have to do that. No question about it. So what we do is, okay, I have to do this, so I want to get a great advantage in life. So if you're lucky, you're born in a good family, you go to preschool, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, and tertiary education. Because you want to be able to get a job so we can have money to survive, and more than that, to have a secure life. Now, different people will have different success in it, right? And it all depends on their makeup. What I mean by makeup is depend on whether they have a good mind, whether they have hindrances, like defilements, They might have a good mind, but then they have a lot of defilement. They're lazy, They do not want to work. They do not want to study, right? So that is part and parcel of life, right? So from the very beginning, we know that we are different, right? We are different. Different in our abilities, and different also in the defilements that we have. Now, where does all this defilement comes from? Right? It's so different, defilement. Where does it all come from? And, as we grow older, we come to know probably three things, actually. But we usually talk about two. That there is the mind and there is the body, right? So we know there's a mind and there's a body, and we know the limitations of the body. We know the problems with mind. And those of us who have actually practiced meditation, we come to know that the mind is different from the body, and the body is different from the mind. And although they interact with one another, there's a possibility of disengaging the body from the mind. There's not very much you can do about the body you're born with. And there is a lot you can do with your mind. Now, what is this third thing that I've talked about? There is something called the heart, right? So, some of you might know, most of you might not know there's something called the heart, or some of you might know there is a heart. And some of you may be able to tell the difference between the heart and the mind. But some of you who are use your mind all the time doesn't know that the heart exists, right? But you know the heart exists when your mind tells you that you shouldn't do it. But there's something in you pulling you, that wants to do it. You can't help it, right? Your mind says, it's not a good thing to do, it's not a good thing to do. But there's something there and there, it's not listening. That's the heart, right? Whatever the heart does, right, it affects the mind, right? When your heart is worried, it can't stop your mind from worrying. You start thinking about this, thinking about that, And we should actually pay more attention to the heart. But we don't. We spend 15 years going to preschool, kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, so on, to train the mind so we can think logically, get knowledge, become better. But we don't spend any time educating the heart as well. The heart is unwise. There are certain things it shouldn't do, but it wants to do it. There are certain things that you do that brings disaster. People tell you, don't take drugs, don't drink too much. But does the heart listen? Do you listen? Does the heart listen? No. Because we don't pay attention to the heart. We don't educate the heart. And when we come see the differences between us, right, we ask, why is it that some people are more fortunate, even within families themselves, brothers and sisters, from the same mother, same DNA, but we all turn out to be different. Now we all know that through our lives that our mind affects our body. When you're worried, you're stressed out, you're more likely to fall ill. Long time ago, there are certain things called psychosomatic diseases. Right? So the mind really affects the body. Right? Now I'm going to go back to the beginning. The beginning when we are just a little fetus in our mother's. We are little fetus within our mother. Now, the way Buddhism describes is that when we are about a particular time, the consciousness descends onto the fetus. So when the consciousness descends onto the fetus, that is when the fetus starts changing. So there's something in the consciousness that changes the fetus, that changes our physical appearance, whatever it is. Right? There's no question about that. When you have consciousness and body coming together, the consciousness will affect the body. We know that from daily experience. Our mind affects the body. So one of the reasons, although we have different, similar DNA to our brothers and sisters, our consciousness changes. Now, what is it that in the consciousness that changes the fetus? There must be something in it. Well, those something are the things, are the tendencies, right? We know tendencies. We know for ourselves tendencies. We've seen our own tendencies. In our life, we develop certain kind of tendency, things we like, things we don't like, things we hate, things we attach to. Be it craving or be it hate, be it wisdom, generosity, All those things. It's a part of us, we know. We know our tendencies. And we know that the tendencies in our mind are difficult, very difficult to overcome. Smoking, something simple as smoking, something simple as drinking. And now it gets worse, sometimes playing computer game, watching television, gambling, gluttony, whatever it is, all these tendencies that we have, right? We don't pay attention to it, and it gets deeper, get embedded. It doesn't get less, it gets deeper. So we know that we are building these things within our mind, our consciousness in itself. Right? And we know that previously we have particular kinds of tendencies. You can see different people are different. Some people just fly off the handle. Wow, they got this rage, they got this anger. Where did it all come from? I don't think that your parents teach them, Some you acquire. So when we know that these things are within us, we keep accumulating them, then we must know, right, that this thing which is unwholesome and wholesome, we know. But we hope that most of the time, our wholesome tendencies comes out, and hope to suppress our unwholesome tendencies. Usually not successful, I don't eat that piece of cake anymore, I'm trying to have just, half a plate, or something like that. But after 3 days, we're back to where we are. Now what is it that keeps these tendencies going? From dependent origination, you know that when there is contact, there is feeling. It is the feeling that always drives us. It is the feeling that drives us to craving. It is the craving that drives us to clinging. It is the clinging that drives us to grasping. And so on. And we all do a lot of things, just because of the feeling. Right? We use all our 6 senses just to get that little bit of feeling, Taste, smells, perfume, smell good, perfume. Touch, silk, And then you want to say beautiful things, And you want to think, fantasize. That gives a good feeling. The other things that is fundamental in a human life is contact. Without any contact, we will go crazy. Right, that's one of the tortures that people use, is stop you from having any contact. We need contact. And we have the contact. The feelings automatically arises. Now the feeling that arises from contact It's condition. Is a resultant, right? When I say it's a resultant, means it's preconditioned. It's conditioned. Every time you see that person, you're not going to like that person. Every time you see this person, you're going to fall in love with this person, right? So that it's conditioned. As soon as you see it, you want it or you don't want it. There's no control, right? It's conditioned. Some are conditioned in your previous life. Some are conditioned while you're growing up. So there's nothing we can do about the feeling that arises from contact. But what we can do is stay with the feeling, right? Do not let the feeling continue to become craving. If it does become craving, stay with the craving. Do not let it go to clinging. You can say, I want it. Yeah, that's clinging. And so on. So when we know whatever state we are in, we try to stop the path of dependent origination from going to until it comes to a point where we become angry, or become a stingy person, or become a greedy person, become a hateful person, or become a person who is madly in love. Same thing. Right? So we want to stop at whatever stages we are at. And that calls for mindfulness and understanding. That comes, you have a lot of awareness that whatever it comes up. We can do it. We can do it for things, only things that the craving is not that strong. We can watch it. It goes to feelings of craving. But there are certain things where we are really conditioned, we just become angry. We just become angry, or whatever, or we greedy. So we have to practice. We have to train the heart. Right? We have to train the heart. And the only way is to train the heart to have concentration and mindfulness. Without those, there's no way of catching that moment. Right? The Eightfold Noble Path can be divided into sila, morality, samadhi, concentration or meditation, panya, wisdom. Right? Some of us are lazy. Say, yeah, I'll do sila, I do a good dana, keep my 5 precepts. And I'm interested in wisdom. I like to hear all these nice things, how to get, how to do this, Some teachers say, you don't need samadhi, you just do your sila, you do your panya, watch what's arising in your mind, Yeah, you can do it for things that you're not really conditioned, where the conditioning is not very strong. Right? When the condition is very strong, you don't have time. You have to develop samadhi. You have to practice meditation. Or else there's no way of preventing yourself from becoming. That's one thing that's another thing we know, that everybody dies, right? But we don't die, you forget that we are going to die, everybody dies, It's a fact, When you ask, do you die? You think, well, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. And there's a very good reason for it, right? There's a good reason why we don't believe we could die. And the reason is that the mind doesn't die. Instinctively we know the mind doesn't die. How can I die? That's when we are referring to the mind, not the body. We don't think in terms of, when we think in terms of I, we usually think about our mind. I don't die, And that's the intuitive feeling, right? And when you practice meditation, right, you come to know fully what the mind is, how uncontrollable the mind is, right? There's no way you can control the mind. The mind goes according to dependent origination. What your contact? If you have an argument with somebody, you cannot do your meditation. Your mind is all over the place, right? Or you fall in love, you had fall in love with somebody, you cannot sit and do meditation. You start fantasizing. What are you going to say to her tomorrow, or him tomorrow? Right? No way you can control it. And because of the previous contact, right? It creates all this feeling. And this feelings creates all this craving or aversion. Right? So we know when we practice meditation that the mind is uncontrollable. No way. And we also know that we can't control the mind. We can't stop the mind. When we get this intuitive feeling, then there's no way the mind is going to die. And that's quite true. We come to know. Right? Because everybody's scared of death. We do not want to die. Right? It means the mind doesn't want to die. The mind craves for consciousness, craves for existence. Right? Why does it crave for existence? Because it craves for all the pleasure that comes from existence. So at the moment of death, at the moment when the body is dying, the mind searches for another place first before it leaves the body. Just like a monkey swinging from tree to tree. It doesn't let go of one hand before it grabs onto the next branch. It doesn't let go. So it's the same with us. Right? We don't leave this body. Right? Until we can find another existence. That's our craving for existence. That is very strong. So when we come to know that, we crave for existence, we know instinctively that there is another life. There's a next life. Our mind doesn't die, We're going to live again in a different place or a different body. So when we get there, right, and the question is, from where do we come from? Come from the past life. You cannot say, I believe in the future life and not believe in the past life. It's not logical. Right? If there's a future, there's a past. That's the only way you can get to the future. Right? Once you get the future, that future becomes your present life. And where you come from is your past life. This is undeniable from our experiences. Right? So from this we understand that the consciousness of the future depends on what we do with it here. Depends on conditioning here. Right? It depends on how we use it, how we treat it. How we misuse it, whether we look after it or not, whether we educate it or not, whether we should restrain our defilements or not. Whether we promote the wholesome intention, all that. So when we get into the future life, we also know that nothing of what we have just disappear. What we have accumulated in this life just doesn't go like that. It doesn't. There's no reason for it to go that way. There's no cause for it. Well, maybe the things that we do that's not strong we forget, but the things that are strong remain with us. So when we get into next embryo, next fetus, the consciousness will be conditioning the fetus, and we are who we are. So this body, every body that you have, is the resultant of a past karma, past action. Right? That's as far as it goes. Once you're born, then you start growing up, and then it all depends on your conditioning. It depends on, and as you grow up, then it depends on your mind. It depends on your previous tendencies. Right? So when we know that the consciousness is the important thing, the consciousness is linked to our heart. Right? When we know the consciousness is important, instead of educating the mind, we have to spend some time educating our heart. Right? We have to do that. We know, we have seen, there are people who have grown old, but they're still the same as when they were 30 years old. They're still angry. They're still stingy. They're still covetousness. They want this, they want that. Right? For change to happen, you have to do something. Right? You cannot expect change to happen without doing anything. It'll just continue. Right? So we got to seriously educate our heart. And that's the most important thing. It is the heart which always gets us into trouble. Right? Falling in love with somebody whom you're not supposed to fall in love with. Falling in love with bad habits, enjoying too much. So it's the heart. So when we know that, then we train ourselves to let go of things, to see. Right? And the fundamental teaching, the most important thing which the Buddha taught, is restraining of the senses. We restrain our senses. What does it mean by restraining the senses? We don't let our mind go out until we get lost. It is usually the mind, we see things, and then it gets into the mind. And then we're lost. Right? Or restrain. We go up to a point, I enjoy alcohol. Now up to that point I'm going to stop. For lay people, so that is so much I'm going to go. I have to practice restraint. Whatever you do on unwholesome stuff, things which are unwholesome, you have to have restraint. See? Oh, you want to play computer game? That's fine, until a certain point. You don't want to watch drama? That's okay until a certain point. 12 o'clock, time to go to bed. I just can't get up tomorrow morning, Nowadays, it's unlimited video streaming, YouTube upon one after another. You can watch 24 hours, 48 hours, you know. So you have to have restraint. The way the world is going is that they are trying to please you, right? With all the five senses, not just one. Your perception, they make it look beautiful for you. Your feeling, they make you feel nice, right? They make it so that the things itself is beautiful, right? And they tell you stories about it, you know, how good this thing is, you know, and all that. So that's sankhara, you know. And then if they can, they give you a special experience, consciousness with it. That's the way the world is. They're becoming clever at marketing, advertising, appealing to your taste, appealing to your vision, appealing to your hearing. Now you can have practically any ringing tone you want, right? Let you do it. When we were born, we need these 4 nutrients, right? I've mentioned it, this food which we need. Contact with all the 5 senses. Consciousness. And the other one is the will to express, to become somebody, to express ourselves. If those are the only 4 things, it's not too bad. But we start grasping for the 5 khandhas. There are people who believe, the body is the most important thing. They go to the gym, they work out, there's somebody, beautiful muscles, all toned, you know. Got to make sure that all the muscles are balanced as well, you know. And then there are people who are in their profession or whatever they do, they have to have beautiful faces, beautiful skin, beautiful foundation, beautiful haircut. If any of these things goes wrong, they're suffering, they're not happy. That's the rupa khandha that they're attached to. Right? I'm giving specific examples of particular ones. And there are people, nothing is important more than feeling. Doesn't matter whether you eat, you wash yourself, so long as you feel good. Listening to music, it gives you great feeling. Chatting with friends. Nothing is more important than feeling. This friend, doesn't matter who he is, he gives me good feeling when I mix with him, you know, he praises me all the time, he gives me things, you know. Nothing else does matter. Right? That's seeking feeling. Seeking perception. Van Gogh, Matisse, Rembrandt. So all these are famous artists. Right? You see a painting, wow, 30 million pounds or something like that, you know. You know. So that's the people who are looking, perception. Nothing else matters, perception. You've read the lives of artists, yeah. No money, doesn't matter. They live for their painting. They live to create just the masterpiece they want. They believe that there's something, there's a perfect picture, a masterpiece, through their perception, through others' perception. Then you have philosophers who think great thought, nothing else important. A mathematician whose thing is finding a new mathematics, finding a new philosophy. Communism, Marxism, capitalism, socialism, whatever philosophy. There's a lot of branching of ethics. So those people are involved in that, in the mind. Nothing else important. That's the fourth khandha, sankhara. And the last khandha, consciousness. In the 60s, people want to have altered states of mind. You take drugs, right? Wow, I feel good. Wow, my mind is expanded, right? But they found that they've been addicted to it, or things happen to them. So now they're a bit wiser. They do meditation, no side effects, But they do meditation just for the sake of getting there, say, hey, I want to go to the table world, or I want to have psychic powers, But it's all about consciousness. Now that's I'm talking about specific profession that prominently attached to a particular khandha. But what it was is that things like a performer or whatever, say an actress, so or when we watch a movie, or when we watch a play, or when we watch a musical, right? They give you the feeling, they give you the perception, they give you the story behind it. So we're attracted by the music, we're attracted by what we see, and we got a storyline, it captivates us. Right? Now, we have a problem there. So the only way is to have restraint from the beginning. To restrain yourself from immersing yourself too long in those things. The trouble with immersing yourself in those things is you're deepening that tendency, you're deepening that craving. That is what is worth it. Right? Other things else doesn't matter. You may enjoy it, whatever it is. But the problem lies, the biggest problem lies, is the attachment, is the craving. That is the second noble truth. Craving is the cause of suffering. 3 forms of craving, you all know about it. Craving for sensual pleasure, craving to be, craving not to be, I want to be a great footballer, I want to be a great scientist, I want to be a great meditator, I want to be a great abbot, Same thing, craving to be. Right? So we're deepening the craving. So the first thing is not to indulge. The second thing is to learn to let go of the craving. So that is the fourth path, the path of ending suffering. Nothing else. Nothing else. Craving. That's the only one. And when we finally become wiser and start letting go, and then we find that we're a bit more peaceful. Right? We don't get our happiness externally. We get happiness internally. Happiness arises by itself. You don't feel remorse. Right? And that's something that is cheap. We don't have to work for it. Right? All I have to do is train our mind. Right? And training your heart or mind is cheap as well. It doesn't cost anything. Right? It's your time, right? And your time is well spent if you train your mind and your heart, because you get something invaluable. If you go out, seek for pleasure, that's the opposite. It's not neutral, it's the opposite. You're getting worse. No question about it. So the escape is to escape from craving. Escape from being attached to things. We take all this as a little escape. Only then we can come to work for the big one. Now I'm also giving a talk on Sunday, and on the day itself I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you why all these things that we are seeking for is not worth seeking for. Right? Today I'm just telling you what's happening in this life, how we progress, what's the most important thing we have to do, so that we get a better life, future life. Right? You don't have to worry about dying. Yeah. Your mind doesn't die. You have to worry about craving. That's the most important thing. Right? That is things you can do now. Right? Body dying, it's a natural process. You know the mind doesn't die. So we know we have to do. We have to make a determination. We have to learn to educate our heart. If we do not, we are going to suffer. It's going to get worse. It gets us into trouble. Okay? So I'm going to stop here and take questions.
Our highest thanks to Bhante for delivering an excellent talk. Any questions, brothers and sisters? Any questions? Feel free to come forward. Please take this opportunity to ask questions, since Bhante have one more session to go only. So, please, Dr. Ko, yes, you can come forward. Please come forward.
Bhante mentioned about the heart. Can you please tell us more about it?
I'm not. Yeah. Well, I've had people asking me that question. You know, if I tell you what the heart is, then you will think my definition of what the heart is, and you're happy with it, right? So I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to ask you to find out for yourself what the heart is. You do not want a definition. You want to know. You want to know the difference between heart and mind. You want to know how the heart affects the mind. You want to know what lives in the heart. You want to know what arises in the heart. You want to see how far, how long does it arise before it ceases. You want to learn to see when it arises, how you keep holding on to it because you like it. Right? These are the things that you want to see. Right? And then you can understand the heart. Right? So that first you must be able to see it. You know, When you see your troubled mind, right, you say, what's causing that? You look here. Right? And then with some amount of mindfulness, then you'll come to see what the direct cause is. And once you see that, right, then it might subside. You know, the best example is the anger. Right? When you catch your anger arising, it just stops. But sometimes when you feel angry, you know you're holding the anger, but you don't act on it because you have some control over it. Right? But you know where the anger is. It's in here, isn't it? And then sometimes when it's here, it starts creating all this in here. Angry thoughts about what you're going to do, but you don't have to do it. Right? That creates that. Right? So those are the things you want to see. Right? The origin, where it started, where it ends. Right? So that actually is created by that. Right? So you learn to see the heart by seeing the Dhammas, good and bad, that's arising in you. Right? And you want to see what you're doing with it. Whether you're just watching it or propagating it by continually holding on to it or pushing it. Right? So that's what you want to practice. You know, looking into the heart. Then you come to understand what the heart is. Right? Okay? But towards the end, you can say the heart is linked to the consciousness, you know. But that doesn't mean anything. Right? Linked to chitta doesn't mean anything. Right? When you look at it and understand it, then you know what to do. That's the important thing. Okay?
Any more questions, brother? Please come forward.
I think I roughly hear what he said. Your tendencies remain, right? Whatever tendencies that you have remain. That's the strong one. Whatever that's strong within your heart, that remains. It's just like when you're going to sleep and you wake up, you're practically the same person you are, you know, because tendencies, defilement has to be got rid of. Right? It's something that's in there. That's the seed is there. Right? The karma is there. Right? Or the resultant is there. Right? But when you're born, you're conditioned by your DNA as well. And where you're born, in what family you're born, it's dependent on your consciousness. Right? So it's not a simple thing, you know, that you're exactly the same as you are the night before, you know, because a lot of factors involved in your upbringing, the family, everything, right? But the one thing that doesn't change is your tendencies for things, to do things, you know, craving. The most important thing is the not knowing avijja, you know. See, all those things that you have within your heart, you cannot do anything about it. What you can do now, right, is to reduce those tendencies. What you can do now is in this lifetime, at this moment, to reduce those tendencies. What's already been there, has been put in there, has been conditioned for a long time, right? So you don't have to know, don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is watch what's happening now. Watch what's happening now, then you know who you are, who you were even, what you're like. Miserly, stingy, holding on to things. Yeah. So that's something you want to do about it, right? You don't say, yeah, I'm that person, I'm that person and that's it, But you want to do something about it, right? Yeah. Attachment to things, or somebody who wants his way all the time, or somebody who wants to dominate people, right? Or your tendency, you want to correct people, change the world, go out and change the world, More important, change yourself first, right? So, whatever that comes up in your heart, that is the important thing to know and to work with. Okay? Yeah.
Bhante, how to reduce jealousy? How to reduce jealousy?
How to reduce?
Jealousy.
Jealousy.
Yeah.
Come to my Sunday talk. That you know how to reduce jealousy. Right? That's the way. Practically, my Sunday talk is about having right views. Right? So if you can come on Sunday, come on Sunday. So it's easier. But there are other ways of doing reducing jealousy. But I prefer people to do it in a particular way, having right view. Right? Sunday talk. No, put in your diary. Okay.